Chat, welcome to another episode of the Harris from Sports. We are back at it again. We are about 5 or 6 days removed from the two quarterfinal games. We had Oregon, they got belt to A against that Indiana team 56-22, and then you had Miami at Ole Miss. Miami would come up on top 31-27, and the national title is set for the college football playoffs. So let's get into this Miami Ole Miss game. And boy, did Carson Beck show up in a big way. This was a highly entertaining game with a lot of fireworks in the end. But before we get into that, did anybody expect for Miami to make it this far in the playoffs, right? As you know, Miami was picked over Notre Dame, and Miami is really showing that they deserve to be here, right? I don't think Notre Dame would have made it this far within the college playoff, and Miami's like, you know what? We're going to come out, we're going to play every single game, we're going to win, and we're going to just continue to move on, right? You had Miami, they beat Ohio State, they beat Texas Tech. Ohio State was favored to win it all when Miami had beat them. So Miami is showing up in a big way. They're answering all the questions that are asked each and every single week, right? We knew that defensive line was certified. We knew Akeem Mesidor and the were certified and could get sacks on that quarterback, right? But we were like, hey, if Carson Beck has to throw over 25 times, are they going to win the game? If Carson Beck had to have a game-winning drive, would they be able to win the game? And you know what Carson Beck said? He's like, hey, they paid me millions for a reason, right? So he goes out there on the last drive of the game, and he strings together 8 plays for a game-winning rushing touchdown. He came out, he came to play. And that fourth quarter was absolutely insane for these for this Miami Ole Miss game, right? If we look at what happened in that fourth quarter, Miami would punt the ball to start the fourth quarter. Ole Miss would take the lead with a field goal with 5:19 left. Miami, they would go and score a touchdown in 4 plays, 75 yards. Ole Miss would then go out and score a touchdown, 6 plays, 75 yards. And then lastly, Miami would go on that game-winning drive and kind of put the nail in the coffin. And looking back at all the games that Miami played this year, right, I believe they only held Texas Tech to 3 points. They held Ohio State to 10 or 14 points. Everybody was like, well, if they have to chase points against a huge offense, are they going to be able to come out there and get the job done? And that's exactly what they did. Miami forced 2 huge turnovers in this game, if I'm not mistaken. No, they only forced 1 turnover. And they really just knew what it took to get to win, right? We know that defense is certified. That defense came out and they came to play. Let's see. They would only end the day with 1 sack, but they definitely had a lot of pressures on the quarterback. That defense is something fierce. The interceptions against that Ohio State team, those stemmed from defensive pressure, and they were able to force a pick 6 against that Ohio State team. Against Texas A&M, they were able to force 3 or 4 turnovers. But as you know, Indiana does not turn the ball over. Indiana does not make mistakes. Indiana does not get penalties called, right? In each and every single game that Indiana had won this year, they had won time of possession, they had won the penalty battle. The only games that they didn't win was one, and that was against, if I'm not mistaken, Arizona State. Arizona State won time of possession, but they lost the penalty battle, right? So Indiana wins in those much needed categories of getting the job done. And Carson Beck, he really showed me that he's certified and he is he is able to go out and win a national championship, right? Yes, he's going to the game. Is he going to be able to beat that Indiana team? I do not think so, but we'll get into that later into the video. Going into this Miami Ole Miss game, I thought Trinidad Chambliss would outshine Carson Beck in such a way that it would just be very heavily favored towards Ole Miss. But he played just about the same as Carson Beck, and really what it came down to was that defense and who had the ball last, right? Each time each quarterback had the ball, they scored a touchdown. Did Trinidad Chambliss leave too much time on the clock for Carson Beck? And that's exactly what happened, right? You look at Carson Beck's stat, he went 23 for 37, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Trinidad Chambliss went exactly the same for completions. He had about 11 more yards and would score 1 touchdown. Rushing was about the same. Keywan Lacey, he had half the touches that Mark Fletcher did and had just about the same amount of yards. But what really kind of made the difference here was the playmaking by the receivers, right? You had Keelan Marion, he had 114 with a 16-yard average. You had Malachi Tony, he had 81 yards for a 16 yard average. And this Miami team, I believe they have three receivers right now who are averaging over 12 yards per catch with over 50 to 60 catches on the year. So we know that they have some dangerous receivers in Malachi Tony and Marion. But how do they stack up against, Surratt, Charlie Becker? You know what I mean? They have some offensive weapons that are going to be a problem. Let's look at that. Next, we'll get into that Indiana Oregon game. Not much needs to be said in this game, right? You saw the score. The score is 56-22. I mean, they just got dominated, right? Fernando Mendoza, he had more touchdowns than he had incompletions. He goes 17 for 20, 177 yards, 5 TDs. And I mean, from the first play of the game, Indiana came and they showed out, right? First play of the game, Dante Moore throws a pass, pick six, right? We knew that Oregon was going to have a hard time moving the ball with their 1 and 2 starting running backs out for the game, one with a broken collarbone and two with limited gameplay. Oregon could just not find a way to get that ball rolling, right? Indiana just looks like a powerhouse right now. Is anybody stopping Indiana? Is anybody gonna stop that cold stone face from Kurt Signetti? Right? Kurt Signetti seems to always have the answers to each and every single one of the punches that the other team throws, right? I look back at the original Oregon Indiana game played in Eugene earlier in the year, and it seemed like Indiana was out of its shell, right? That was one of the first that was the highest ranked team that had faced all year. It was in Oregon. It was a hostile environment. They got a lot of penalties out of that Oregon team. Pre-snap penalties, if I'm not mistaken, they had 7 pre-snap penalties when Indiana was driving the ball. And they knew what they needed to improve to win this game, and they knew how they were going to win this game. Right? It's very tough to beat a team twice in the same year, right? Oregon, since they lost that game, they went back to the drawing board. They said, what do we need to improve to be better at this game? Yes, Indiana watched tape, but ultimately they came away with the W. But Oregon, they were searching for answers and they did not find them. Right, Dante Moore, he is still searching for answers. He was slated to go to the NFL, and he said, "Nah, I need to run that. I need to run it back one more year in college to see if I can hoist up that national title." Right, Oregon, they've been a powerhouse for a long time now. I believe they've been to either the conference finals or the finals the past 3 out of the past 6 years, right? So Oregon is trying to make a name for itself. And if you look at Dan Lanning and his ability to coach, the only 3 losses, he has 3 losses in total, right? 2 have came to eventual national champions, right? Both of his losses in the college playoffs, the team won the national title that year, right? So he's getting the job done. It's just the people who are winning the championship are beating Dan Lanning, right? So he's got a hump that he has to go over for him to be able to complete a season and for him to hoist up that national title. And it's looking like Indiana is going to win the national title right now. And that's who I actually have winning that game on January 19th. We will be live for that game on YouTube, if you guys were wondering, January 19th at 7:30. And it looks like Indiana's going to win, right? They're 68% favorite in this game. The spread right now is 8.5. That continues to rise. Earlier in the week, it was only a touchdown. It was only 7 points. And as the week progresses, that number just keeps going up half a point, half a point, half a point. And it's got it all the way up to an 8.5. And I do see Indiana covering the spread, right? I see Indiana getting off to an early lead and never looking back. Right when Indiana gets to a 1-2 touchdown lead, Miami, they can't blitz how they want to. They have to play conservative. They have to make sure they don't get beat in single coverage, right? And you got guys like Surratt, you got guys like Becker, you have weapons at the receiver position who are just making it happen each and every single play. Each time one of those receivers is on a one-on-one matchup, it looks like they never lose, right? Between Isaiah Surratt, between Charlie Becker, and between Omar Cooper Jr., they don't lose 1v1 matchups, right? Fernando Mendoza, he knows how to spin a football. He is going to put the ball in the perfect spot for these receivers to make a catch, and they continue to go out there play after play after play and just continue to get it done, right? Surratt, 15 touchdowns on the season. Cooper, 13 touchdowns on the season. Yes, Becker, he's only got 4 touchdowns, but he's averaging 20 yards per catch on 30 catches. That man is lightning in a bottle. He is impossible to keep up with, and I think Indiana is going to just continue to go out there and make the job happen, right? I don't think Mario Cristobal will have all the answers that Curt Cignetti has, and I don't think that Curt Cignetti is going to lose that chess match, right? It's going to be ultimately a chess match between these two coaches, right? Indiana is known for not having all those 5 stars on the roster. So what does it boil down to? It boils down to fundamentals and play calling from Curt Cignetti, and that man just continues to prove that I might not have the best players, but I have the best game plan. I might not have the best players, but I have the answers to every single question that you might have asked about our Indiana team. And the last key factor that I think is going to lead into this team is going to be third downs for each team, right? If you look at this Indiana team, their third down efficiency is 58%. If you look at this Miami team, I believe they're only converting on 47% of third downs, right? And that's because Indiana is always on pace to get that first down, right? Yes, they start at 1st and 10, but then they eventually go into a 2nd and 6, into a 3rd and 4. They're always having short yardage on third downs where they can open the whole playbook and hit you with anything. They can hit you with a play action. They can hit you with a screen. They can hit you with, a bubble. They can hit you with a wrap. There are so many different options that Indiana has to convert on third downs because they're always on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, and they're able to convert. Miami only 46% on third downs right now, as you can see, not as high as that Indiana team. And let's just look at first downs, right? Miami has 135 rushing first downs to 180 passing yards. If I'm not mistaken, it's completely flip-flop from this Indiana side, right? You have 107 rushing touchdowns for this Indiana and 160 passing first downs, right? So that just shows you that Indiana is going to get that first down rushing the ball 9 times out of 10, right? So keep your eyes peeled. Make sure you guys tap into the live session for the national title game. It's going to be great. I am very excited for it. We're going to wrap up this college season strong. During the off season, I'm gonna be streaming some video games. I'm gonna be tapping into defenses. I'm gonna be hitting up all the guys in my circle, asking about information on how to find the best defenses, how the best offenses, and I'm going to look at the best championship roster that has won a national title, right? So stay tuned. Make sure you guys tap in. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one. Appreciate you guys for tapping in.